is this? Is it an epic new video on an epic new channel about an epic new game that is not even out yet? But the concept is new, sort of, and the game is actively in development this way. This is Devlog, and we are telling you about it. So yes, welcome to These Cats Games. We're making a shooter game. It's called Unsound. It is really cool. And do you guys want a synopsis of the game? Probably want a synopsis of the game.
Unsound is basically just an insane FPS game where weapons are crazy, all battered up and stuff, and just supposed to be really crazy. That's the main premise of this game.
But you can throw enemies.
Yeah.
That's the main premise of it. It's a shooter game. You can throw enemies.
Yeah, there's also like really insane weapons. They also have funny names like Silent but Deadly.
But we won't spoil those for now. I guess it would be proper to introduce ourselves. I am Victor, and my brother here is Pete. Do you have a better pseudonym? You have a better pseudonym?
Flame.
Flame. We'll go with Flame. Yeah, this is us. We're really cool. So yeah, let's get into the devlog. So I'm the one who's programming the game, whereas Flame is doing the artistic side of stuff. So I'm going to be talking about what I've been doing in terms of actually developing the game. We started development an entire year ago. By that I mean like last month. I'll just tell you what it is. So I jumped into a new Unreal project and loaded the first person template. Of course, first thing you gotta do, you gotta remove all the default stuff and change player movement. It's not quite a movement shooter, but it's not quite a boomer shooter either. It's kind of like, you can't jump in Doom. You can jump in this. Obviously, there will be some like parkour, but it's not much. There's no movement abilities, but it's kind of similar. The classification doesn't matter. It's a game, right? But you're very fast. You move very fast. So the first thing I did, as you can see in one of our shorts videos, is I actually made a modular gun system. Basically, how it works is there's a parent blueprint class with a bunch of different settings and variables. You can change things like if it's auto or semi-automatic, if it shoots projectiles or hit scan, whether it's a shotgun or not a shotgun, and a bunch of other stuff. And at the beginning, the bullet spread wasn't that good. I kind of went in like a vertical line, which technically was spread, but I fixed that by just making the vertical and horizontal spread different variables, and that fixed the issue, and now it's more random. After that, I added an alt fire mode. Most guns, if not all of them, will have the ability where you can left click and right click to get different stuff to happen. For example, Silent but Deadly. The primary fire is a fully automatic submachine gun, whereas the secondary is a close quarters knife attack, which will be your first sort of melee weapon. So of course I added the knife. Right now, all the melee weapons, and by that I mean only two, use the same code, and I'm going to need to fix it. It's not actually proper right now, but we'll just ignore that. Then I added a grappling hook, because while this isn't necessarily a movement shooter, there is a grappling hook. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work. I mean, obviously it works right now, but I might change it in the future. And then there's also a shotgun, which has 3 barrels, double barrel, but 3. We'll talk about that later, it's not made yet. But it's alternate fire mode shoots the individual things, and then the main one shoots all 3 at once. After that, of course, we need to recoil. That's pretty simple. Just need to add yaw input or something, pitch input. It doesn't even matter. You don't care. That's recoil. It's kind of jarring, but it also kind of works. Recoil control is going to be a fairly big thing in a Unsound mind, so I had to get that in early, of course. Then I added in a pretty sloppy weapon switching system, but at this point I've fixed it up a little bit, and so it works now. And it's a little difficult to add new weapons too, but that's fine. Then next I imported Flame's model. He'll talk about that once I'm done yapping about this. Then I added muzzle flash using Niagara, and I have not used Niagara before because while I do have some game dev experience in Unreal Engine, I have not used particles because I am lazy. So that was a bit difficult to figure out. Muzzle flash was actually not too hard, but the rest of the other particles, it's a bit of a new thing to learn.
One thing he did have to learn is look at all the checkboxes and make sure one thing is in checkbox, because that may be driving you up the wall because you forgot to check something off.
Yes, there are multiple times where the code was perfect, but there's one checkbox somewhere in a random blueprint somewhere, and I had to check that and it worked. Very frustrating. If you're going to do Unreal Engine development, keep that in mind. Next thing I did is started a basic enemy. The enemy is currently blueprint based. It uses blueprint code, but I'm going to change it to behavior tree before the next video. But it's very simple. It's just there's going to be lots of enemies. You're just going to be murdering them and brutally bloody everywhere. Good stuff. And so of course I added they're just basic cubes. We don't have a model for them yet, but there will be a model for them. And then I added blood effects to it, which this took me so long. I think it took me like a week to get the blood fully working and splatting on the ground and stuff. Ooh. It was a whole thing. But now it's very satisfying. You can shoot them, blood will splatter. When they die, blood will splatter. It's still kind of glitchy. Like, if it like is on the edge of a wall or something, it'll like be weird. If you know how to fix that, like somehow, then commenting it below will be a huge help.
And then he would never remember you again.
I will not. So that's pretty much it. once I added all that stuff, there were quite a few glitches with like switching weapons. As I said, it was pretty sloppy at the beginning. Like you could be shooting one gun, switch it, and then it would still be firing that gun.
Yeah, I was playtesting it. I used the hammer, went onto a wall, and switched to a different gun. Still grappling. So I was floating and shooting.
That took like 3 days to fix, which is very frustrating, but eventually I got it to a pretty good state. And there's also a glitch where you could fly by using the alt fire. It was kind of messy, but now it is fixed. And now on to Flame to talk about what he did and what the game's going to look like.
So literally, the first thing he asked me was...
Well, actually, hold on, interjection, if we're going to start at the beginning. This was an idea I had a long time ago, and then Flame approached me randomly. He's like, hey, you remember that random idea you had? And I was like, yes. And then he's like, we should make that. And I was like, yeah, sure. And it wasn't an idea I was very passionate about, but now that we've revised it so much, it's very cool. Someday I might make a video, we might make a video talking about like the original idea, but not right now.
Get them over here. The first thing I had to do was basically just find something that would be weird and insane. So the first thing I did was made a hammer connected to an axe with a chain. Kind of like nunchucks, but different. You throw one axe, that's what the grappler is. You throw the axe and use it to swing your hammer down on enemies. I designed the axe, I don't know if I have an image, but if there's an image, you'll see something. And then after that, I started getting some more ideas, like I had Deddy Teddy, which is the teddy bear you'll see. He does have more detail in his actual drawing than compared to the actual game, but that's because I'm using 16x16 textures, so it isn't that good. So after making Teddy Deddy, I made Silent Bed Devly. I have a ton of other ideas, but I'm going to save that for a different devlog. Okay, so after that, I designed a few enemies. I have the backstabber so far, and I made a shooting one, little guy. The little guy's name's Scavenger, and then we have KB2. KB2 is not a tank. I searched it up. That's KV2. I did not know that existed. KB2 is an old idea, like really old. It's basically just this robot with normal arms and stuff. Looks like human, but has like a back thingy with spiky arms. So my idea was, how about I just attach that to a drone, but the fan is just right on the bottom of it, as a camera. So I drew that. After that, me and Victor decided to come up with some level designs. I've only drawn one out so far, and it's the intro, is what I've called it. It's the first level you'll be able to play. As the house of the insane man has a couple mines, another vault, and a boss room. Plenty of hallways. We've also thought of some other levels. There's gonna be a mountain level, a city level, and a spaceship level. Other ones, but I don't want to give it all away. Then after a while I realized I'm going to need to make arms. Victor was asking, could you just make him just not have any armor? I was like, what's the fun in that? So I made armor. Bad mistake. It's hard to make. The model is, if I took a picture, it's up there. There's my amazing arms. That's all I really have to say.
This prison to hold.
I also made blood particles and muzzle flash particles.
And on the topic of artistic stuff, something that I personally am doing is the sound design / music. And I guess Flame's also doing some sounds as well. There are a couple of sounds in the game that kind of placeholders. Maybe
Or
maybe
Nerf
not.
guns.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'll have like a thing showing all the sounds in the game right now. But there's a shooting sound which is, I know it sounds like a Nerf gun, but it is not. It is 2 Nerf guns. There are some blood splatter sound effects that we made with taking a wet towel and hitting it. It actually sounds pretty good. Look at that spike right there.
So loud.
Then there's also like a little sound for like when you hit the like wall or something. You know what I mean. I think we'll have a dedicated video to how we made all the sounds, maybe, or like a dedicated section in a video, but there are sounds right now.
Yeah, I also made a radio. Hey, when can people play the game? And will it be free?
That is a great question, Flame. Right now, the plan is to have the demo out before the end of February. Fingers crossed. It is pretty playable right now, although, of course, a lot of things are missing, like the whole main mechanic of being able to throw enemies.
Or all the enemies.
Yeah, and all the enemies.
We only have one.
The demo will be free, as I think most demos are. The full game will maybe be released by Christmas. We'll reconvene once the demo comes out, but the thought is probably before Christmas this year. If we continue developing, again, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And the game will maybe cost a couple of dollars when it's finished. It depends on how long the game is and how much stuff we have in it, and how much we want to cost it.
Is there music in the game?
Why, yes, Flame. There is music in the game. It is made by me. The music is written, but it has not been played. I have no good way of recording my guitar right now. And there's like a thing you can plug in to the computer and then like get an amp software or plug it into a DAW, and then you can get it from there. My current attempts of trying to record my guitar have been very futile and very low quality, so I will not be putting that into the final game. But
except maybe in the radio, which
perhaps
is going to be a very, very lore-heavy thing.
Maybe.
Watch out for it.
Watch out for that. Worst case scenario, at least for the demo, probably the music will just be digitally made with synthesized instruments. Ideally, I record myself playing and then put that in the game. But we'll see if that ends up happening.
So thank you for entertaining our tomfoolery as we tell you all this development stuff. Subscribe, right?
Yes, subscribe.
Unless you don't want to.
Unless you don't want to. Yes.
Yay.
And hey, if you don't subscribe and don't like the video, then we will be very demotivated and we will not finish the game. So it's all up to you. Goodbye.
You're gonna have to edit this video.
I know.